What's happening, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of SWACtalk, the show where we cover the SWAC inside and out. I am your tour guide, C. Wells, and I'm gonna take you around the SWAC for a preview of Week 6. This is the season is moving pretty fast, so we're already in Week 6. October is here. Separation Saturdays begin now. And there's a big game on the schedule this week, and everybody's talking about it's the game of the week for everybody. Anybody that has a show, this is their game of the week, and rightfully so. So we're not gonna waste too much time on all the other games. I'm gonna touch on these games. I'm gonna give them the time they deserve. But this show is about Alabama A&M and Jackson State. We'll close out the show, with that game. But we're going to start off with the first game that I want to talk about, and that's Southern and Texas Southern hooking up in Arlington, Texas, in the Arlington Football Classic, 4 o'clock kickoff. And these two teams come in at they're kind of like different levels right now. Texas Southern was able to pick up their first victory since 2018, defeating North American University by a score of 69-0. And that was a game where they played as well as you can in a game like that, and they did whatever they had to get the dub. Unfortunately, statistically, that game does not count, so their numbers are still from a 3-game season. So you're gonna see numbers that don't look so good because they ran up a lot of points and they shut out a team. So that doesn't reflect on these stats. So it's kind of hard to say how they're doing because they played a game that just didn't really count statistically, but it counted as a dub. So Texas Southern, in the other 3 games they played, they averaged 19.3 points per game and giving up 51. So defensively, they're having trouble with teams who are on their level or higher. They're averaging 119 yards per game on the ground. They're allowing 300 on the ground, so they've been getting gashed by all the FBS and FCS teams that they've played so far. Passing wise, 219 on the season, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Defensively, they're allowing 306 passing, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, giving the opponents a total of 606 yards per game and 8.3 yards per play. They're averaging 338 per game and 4.9 yards per play. Third down conversions, 26% for the Tigers, 44% on fourth downs, and they have 3 sacks as a team. The opponents, 45% third down conversion and 85 on fourth downs, and they've had 5 sacks. So they have, obviously when you look at the teams they played so far, Prairie View, Baylor, and Rice, they've given up points in all those games. They've given up yardage in all those games. So it's kind of tough to say, where this team is right now. Andrew Body is the leading rusher right now. He has 23 carries for 129 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ja'Cory Howard, 21 carries, 99 yards and no touchdowns. Passing, Andrew Body came in. He's doing well as a young gun. I think he's going to be a quarterback of the future in this league. He's still young, so he's going to have some growing pains, but he is going to be a force to be reckoned with if he can continue to grow throughout this season and next season. He is 24 of 45, 377 yards, no touchdowns and 1 interception as far as these stats go. Receiving, Keelan Davis, 16 catches, 305 yards, and no touchdowns. He's averaging 19 yards per catch, so he's definitely getting balls down the field. Jonathan Giles, 11 catches, 147 yards, 1 touchdown. Jaron Johnson, 11 catches, 147 yards, and 1 touchdown. Jonathan Giles, 12 catches, 75 yards, and 1 touchdown. Defensively, Tariq Cooper is the leading tackler with 18. Andre Gibbs, 16. Julian Marcantel, 16. Isaiah Hamilton, 14. Marquise Walker, 13. Tim Walton, 13. Tackles for loss leader is Cooper with 2. And the leading sack man is Hamilton and Frazier, each have 1 interceptions. Marcantel and Walker each have 1 apiece. So this team is, like I said, they're a work in progress. We don't really know exactly where they are. I think they're somewhere in between those first games in that North American game, like I said, not a lot to take away from that game because that team just was not a good team. I don't take the win away from them because I think they deserve the W and they got that. But they're gonna face a Southern team who comes in averaging 26 points, 26 and a half points per game. They're allowing 33. Southern is rushing the ball for 197 yards per game. That's what Southern does. They run the ball. They're allowing 161 on the ground. Southern 171 yards through the air, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. The opponent's 208 yards per game through the air, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Total offense, Southern 363, 6.3 yards per play. The opponent's 369. Southern 363. Southern 369.3 yards per game and 6.3 yards per play. The opponent's 369.8 yards per game and 5.5 yards per play. So Southern is a team that likes to run the ball. When they do throw, they like to use a lot of play action. They're going to run a lot of misdirection. They run everybody, every position runs the ball. Receivers, running back, quarterback, you name it, they're going to run it. They will run some option. They'll run some speed sweeps and jet sweeps. Running backs obviously get the ball. They run reverses. The running game is Southern's bread and butter. So that's the first thing you have to do is stop the running game. Southern's completing 40% third downs, 50% fourth downs. The opponent's 51% third downs and 44% fourth downs. Southern has 9 sacks on the season and 6 for the opponents. Rushing leader right now is Devon Ben with 49 carries for 213. Craig Nelson, 27 carries, 210. Kobe Dillon, who come on strong, former quarterback, stepped into a running back role, 18 carries, 157 yards. Bubba McDaniel, 16 carries, 83 yards. Jamal Washington, 8 carries, 44 yards. Skelton, who has not played in 2 games this year, he has 21 carries for 36 yards. So like I said, that's just, the tip of the iceberg as far as the run game goes. Passing right now, McDaniel is the starter. He's a better passer than Skelton, so I think they're gonna not run as much, but they're still gonna run. They're gonna throw a little bit more. He's 28 of 43 for 379, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's completing 65% of his passes. Receiving, Ethan Howard, probably one of the. I think he's probably the best tight end in the league, if not best, and he's top 2. Top 3, but I don't think you can name 3 or 4 tight ends in the league, period. Anyway, Ethan Howard's a guy who's gonna make plays. He's had 10 catches, 186 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's having 18 yards per catch. So as you can see, he gets down the field. They love to hit him deep down the field. He has great hands for his size, and he has decent speed. Jamal Washington, 16 catches, 116 yards, and a touchdown. Tyler Kirkwood, 7 catches, 104 yards. Marquise McClain, who's their big guy at receiver, he has 4 catches for 71 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's averaging 17 and a half yards per catch as well. So they will take deep shots. I expect more deep passes with McDaniel at quarterback than Skelton. McDaniel is still a work in progress, so we don't really know what to expect from him week in and week out. Defensively, Cameron Peterson is the leading tackler with 21. Tamari Smith, 21. Davin Cotton, 19. Chase Foster, 19. Ray Anderson, 18. Keyshawn Eckler, 17. Jordan Lewis, 16. Jordan Lewis leads the team with 5.5 tackles for loss. Cotton, 4 tackles for loss. Tate, 3. Peterson, 2.5. Lewis, 3.5 sacks on the season. Cotton, 1.5. Ivy, 1. Williams, 1. And interceptions are Cotton and Papillon. So Southern, for this game, Southern just has to do what Southern does. They have to not reinvent the wheel. They just have to come out and, play their game, run the football, take care of the football. They cannot turn the ball over in this game. You cannot allow Texas Southern to get any kind of momentum or confidence. So you need to take care of the football and lean on your ground game. I think this game is probably going to go a little bit like the spring matchup between these two teams. It was a pretty close first half. I think Texas Southern was not quite in it, but they weren't out of it either. But Southern was able to pull away in the second half, and I expect a game similar to that. I think they're going to try to get pressure on the quarterback to throw him off his rhythm and see how he holds up to that pressure. So Texas Southern defense is definitely going to have to be stout against the run and force Southern to pass. They're going to have to put McDaniel in some situations that he's not comfortable in. But right now, I don't see that happening. So I think this is going to be a game that starts close. It's going to end, I think, Southern 35, Texas Southern 20. I think it's going to be a close game at the half. Southern will pull away in the second half. Next game that we're going to talk about is Bethune Cookman hosted in Mississippi Valley. 3 p.m. kickoff is homecoming in Daytona. This game is broadcast on the Cat Eye Network. So two teams going in kind of different directions. The records are not that different, but the teams' fortunes are very different right now. Valley picked up a big win over North Carolina Central on their homecoming, and they played a competitive game against Southern. So they're starting to improve. They're starting to show signs of life. Coach Dancy's team always plays hard. They are not really a team that's going to hurt you offensively, but if you allow them to stay in the game, they will hurt you. They're averaging 120 yards per game rushing, 3.3 yards per carry. The opponent's 173 yards rushing, 4.5 yards per carry. Passing, Valley is averaging 134 yards per game, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. The opponent's 238 through the air, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Total offense, Valley, 255 yards per game, 4.1 yards per play. The opponent's 411 per game, 6.4 yards per play. 26% third down rate for Valley. That's definitely got to improve. Fourth down conversions, Valley 50%. They have 9 sacks on the season. Like I said, their defense is salty. You will get hit when you play them. They're gonna get after the quarterback. They're gonna try to stop the run, and they're gonna play downhill, and they're gonna play fast. Like Coach Dancy said a couple weeks ago, the key is to get them to slow down a little bit so they don't make as many mistakes. The opponents, 44% third down completion, 33 on fourth down, and they have 10 sacks. So they are not really protecting the quarterback that well. But Eason is a runner, so he's gonna get tackled for losses from time to time. Caleb Johnson, like I said before, if you haven't seen this guy play, man, you need to really watch him. If he played for any other team in the league, you would know who he is. He has 72 carries for 307 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's a big-time baller at running back. Jelani Eason, 22 carries, 85 yards. And after that, it's not really a lot of, they have a couple guys that fill in for Johnson, but not a second guy to really go to. Eason stepped in for Connor Reagan. He is not a great passer, but he's getting better. He's been a lot better with the ball these last couple of games. He's completing 68% of his passes. They're giving him a lot of shorter things to do, not so much deep down the field. But he has 384 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And he is a guy who can run the ball, so you definitely have to be aware of his legs because he will hurt you. The leading receiver is Jarius Clayton and Ja'Cory Rankin. They both have 16 catches. Clayton, 164 yards. Rankin, 161 yards. And they each have 1 touchdown. They're of the guys who have multiple catches, they lead the team. They lead with yards per catch at 10 per catch. So they don't, like I said, they don't go deep. They love receiver screens. They love to put the ball on the outside to get those guys the ball in space and let them, run out the catch. So if you're a defense, you have to keep them in front of you. You have to tackle well. You don't necessarily have to worry about, the top getting taken off your defense, but you have to be aware that they're going to throw that ball out there, and you have to be ready and you have to tackle because they are some guys that can break some tackles and get loose. Deion Reed's the leading tackler on the team with 27. Jalen Bell, 21. Jeremiah Kane, 18. Valmy Soignier, 18. Keontae Daniels, 14. Tackles for loss. Bell leads the team with 5 tackles for loss. Reed, 3.5. Soignier, 3.5. Thomas, 3.5. And Bell and Thomas lead the team with 2 sacks apiece. And the interceptions come from Soignier, who had a big pick 6 before half against North Carolina Central, and Kenneth Morton. They both have the interceptions on the season. Bethune Cookman, on the other hand, is a team that's going in the other direction. They are the definition right now of a empty stats type of team. They play okay, and then late in the game they play a little bit better to make the game look better. But they're 0-5, and they need a W in the worst way. If they go 0-6 and they 0-3 in conference, it's over for them, and they're gonna have to do some soul searching. So they played a better game in the second half, in the fourth quarter against South Carolina State, but South Carolina State did substitutions because they were up 42-7. So they were mainly running against second and third unit guys, but they were able to put some points on the board and make the score look a little bit closer than what it was. They're averaging 25 points per game. They're allowing 42. That's very Bethune Cookman like. Rushing, they're averaging 99 yards per game rushing. Again, another week of poor rushing, and they have the guys to carry the ball, but for whatever reason, it's just not clicking for them. They're allowing 209 on the ground. That's not good. Passing 219 for Bethune Cookman with 7 touchdowns. Those 6 interceptions are killer. 282 through the air for the opponents, 11 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Total offense, Bethune Cookman 319 per game, 5.6 yards per play. The opponents 491 per game and 6.4 yards per play. Bethune Cookman 36% third down completion rate, 50% fourth down, and they have 7 sacks. The opponents 48% on third downs and 100% on fourth downs. I mean, fourth down conversions are always hit or miss, but to not have gotten a stop on fourth down is a little bit concerning. Depending on when these conversions are taking place, and the fact that they haven't won means these are not desperation fourth downs. These are fourth downs to extend drives, and that needs to stop to get this defense off the field. And the opponents have 8 sacks on the season. Right now, they're led in rushing by Quishon Bird. He has 44 carries for 269 yards and 3 touchdowns. Devin Black came on in reserve of Shannon Patrick last Saturday, and he has 8 carries for 131 yards and 1 touchdown. He basically got all of that in that game. Right now, Shannon Patrick is still a leading passer. He's 79 of 141, 911 yards, 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Devin Black, 9 of 23. He completed 39% of his passes. So, that if he's going to continue to play, that number has to obviously get better. 154 yards and 1 touchdown with no interceptions. Kamari Everett, if Austin Howard is the top tight end or the second best tight end, I think Everett is right up there. He's either one or two. Both of those guys are super guys. He has 24 catches for 403 yards and 4 touchdowns. Marcus Riley, 15 catches, 175 yards and 1 touchdown. Darryl Powell, 10 catches, 147 yards and 1 touchdown. Defensively, Kevin Thomas leads the team with 41 tackles, and he also leads with 6 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. So he's like the big dog on the defense right now. Ontario Johnson, 33 tackles. Caleb Sutherland, 24. Hampton, 21. And Ratliff, 20. The interceptions come from Thomas and Hill Robinson. So this is a big game in the sense that you do not want to fall further behind. If you're either one of these teams, a loss drops you to 0-2 in conference. Well, a loss drops Valley to 0-2. A loss drops Bethune Cookman to 0-3. And that's not where you want to be. You don't want those problems at 0-3. So this is a huge must-win game for both of these teams. I felt like Valley would beat somebody, and last week, if you watched SWAC Smoke, I said they would beat Bethune Cookman, but I still feel that way. This is a huge game for Valley because Valley needs to prove that they can win on the road. I think Bethune Cookman back is going to be against the wall. They're a wounded animal and it's homecoming, so they're gonna want to play well. They're gonna have to prove a point to get a W against a team who is surprisingly improving and is definitely a dangerous opponent. Like I always say, Valley is tough at home. On the road, they're a little bit not so tough. But I think this is a Valley team that's gonna break that mold. I'm just not really sold on Bethune Cookman right now. I think they have a lot of problems to work out, and I think this is gonna be one of those Valley type of games. These two teams played in 2019, and Valley lost 22-6, I think it was, or 22-9. So they can compete with Bethune Cookman. I think Valley's gonna win this game in one of those kind of games, like 23-20. I think it's gonna be a close game. I don't think it's gonna be pretty at all. Bethune Cookman, they're reeling. This loss will set them back even further. I think Valley's gonna get it done. Now, don't get me wrong. Bethune Cookman can win this game, and if they play to their capabilities, they can probably win this game going away. But right now, I just feel like their confidence is shaking, and they have some real soul searching to do, and they really need to figure this out right away. But I think Valley is playing a little bit more spirited right now, and I think that's going to help them get the W in on the road. So we're going to move on to our next game, another do or die game. Like I said, this is Separation Saturday. From here on out, it's Separation Saturday. So this game is huge. Alabama State is they're not out of the race, but they cannot afford to drop any further. Right now they're 1-1 in conference right now, but 2 or 3 losses in this division is gonna wipe you out. So right now they cannot ill afford another loss at this point because they still have Jackson State and Alabama A&M remaining on the schedule. So those 2 games are huge for them, and they need to win. They need to bounce back from that very poor effort against Florida A&M. Arkansas Pine Bluff has lost their last 2 games, and they've been looking worse and worse as the season progressed. That Alcorn game, I think, might have took something out of them. They never were in the game really against Prairie View, and so they need to rebound because if they drop to 0-3, they are pretty much out of the race in the West Division. They still have games against Southern, Grambling as well, who obviously is a team who can be dangerous. So they also have out of division games against Alabama A&M as well. So they have some tough games still on their schedule. So they cannot afford to drop another game right now. So this is another do or die game, and both teams come in, with their issues. Pine Bluff comes in. Their running game has disappeared. They ran for almost 300 yards against Lane, and from then on, that number has went down each week. Right now, they're averaging 133 yards and 4.5 yards per carry. They need to find a running game and quick. The opponents 144 yards per game on the ground, 3.8 yards per carry. Passing 211 for Pine Bluff. 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Not the kind of numbers you would expect from Skylar Perry, and he got benched against Prairie View, so that's concerning. The opponent's 291 through the air, 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Third down completion rate for Pine Bluff, 28%. 28% with an offense like they have on paper. That's not man, that ain't it, Chief. 37% fourth downs. They cannot stay on the field. That is their biggest problem. They cannot stay on the field. They have 6 fumbles as well to go along with 2 interceptions. So they have 8 turnovers on the season. They're shooting themselves in the foot week in and week out. They have 13 sacks. That defense can get after the quarterback. They're aggressive. They can get after the quarterback, but they get gashed anyway. They give up a lot of big plays. In the last couple of weeks, they've given up a lot of big plays. Prairie View ate them up on the ground. Alcorn in the second half did whatever they wanted to, and that's a big problem. These things have to get fixed. They're only allowing 2 sacks. Their offensive line has been very good the last 2 or 3 years in protecting the quarterback. So just, like I said, they have to find a running game. Kiara Crossley right now is the leading rusher, 36 carries, 182 yards and 5 touchdowns. Skylar Perry, 26 carries, 115 yards, no touchdowns. Perry, leading passer right now, 64 of 131. He's completing 48% of your passes. As a starting quarterback, a guy who was second team preseason all conference, a guy who coming into the season was viewed as a top 3 quarterback in the league. Not good, man. Not good. I think, he can improve. I'm not writing him off, but right now that's just not good right now. For a team that's in the position that they're in right now, they need better play on their offense. Josh Wilkes, 14 catches, 257, 18.3 yards per catch, and 2 touchdowns. Damon Dawkins, 8 catches for 149 yards, 18.6 yards per catch, and 1 touchdown. They'd love to go deep. They will go deep multiple times, but right now they need another guy to step up. I think they really miss Harry Ballard. That was a guy who did a lot for them on their offense. and I think they missed that kind of production. But they have to work with what they have. Defensively, Monroe Beard is the leading tackler with 31, Jalen Thigpen 24, Akins 23, and Watts 23. Beard 5.5 tackles for loss to lead the team. He also leads the team with 4 sacks, and interceptions are from Brooks, Fleming, Fuller, and Farmer. Sounds like a law firm. But Pine Bluff definitely has some things cut out for them. Alabama State has their own issues. Coach Hill Ely, I think, is on the hot seat. 1 week he's not. I think he's back on it. They fired the offensive coordinator on Monday. So this is a team, this offense is in turmoil. Ryan Nettles had a very bad game. He got benched. They didn't play well at all on offense at FAMU. And they haven't really had but one good offensive effort all season. Now you can't really hold them so much for that Auburn game, but they didn't play well offensively against Miles, and FAMU, their offense was non-existent. And for a defense like they have, you putting them in too many bad positions, they're gonna get tired and they're gonna start to give up plays if you're not moving the ball. 94 yards rushing per game, 3 yards per carry. The defense allowing 172 yards rushing per game, 55.1 yards per carry. 173 yards passing for Alabama State, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Those are puzzling numbers. Opponents, 151 through the air, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. 267 total offense for the Hornets, 4.2 yards per play. The opponents, 323 total offense, 5.6 yards per play. Third down conversion, 37% for Alabama State and 40% on fourth downs. They have 10 sacks as a defense. Like I said, the defense is very, very, very. They're one of the top defenses in the league, but you can't keep coming on the field after fruitless offensive possessions. You're gonna wear down. Those guys get after it, but if you have effort like you had against FAMU, that's just not gonna get it done. The opponent's 33% third down conversions, 66 on fourth downs, but they have 11 sacks, so protecting the quarterback is not good. Zay Land ate them up from FAMU, and that's just indicative of how the offensive line is struggling right now. Ezra Gray and Ja'Cory Merritt, some kind of way you have to get them going. Right now, they each are averaging. They each have close to 100 yards in 4 games. Merritt has 97 yards in 4 games. That's not, that's not a good production for a back. 2.3 yards per carry. Gray, 3 games, 108 yards, 4 yards per carry. But one of those guys has to get going, and it has to go now. Ryan Nettles, 65 of 111, two touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 58% completion, 604 yards. Just, like I said, just a very bad game against FAMU. So if they start him, he has to play better. Jeremiah Hickson, 19 catches, 238, 12.5 yards per catch, 1 touchdown. Wallace Corker, 15 catches, 151 yards, and 1 touchdown. Ershaw Davis leads the team with 23 tackles. Brundridge, 15. Clark, 14. Isaac, 14. Terry, 14. Howard and Scott with 12. Tackles for loss, Nick Terry, 3.5. Howard, 3. Brundridge, 2.5. And Echols, 2.5. Sacks, Echols, 2.5. Lead the team. And the only interception they have is from Ershaw Davis. Again, like I said, this is one of those do or die type of games. You really can't afford to lose this game if you're either team. I think Pine Bluff has a little bit more on the line because they dropped to 0-3. They're pretty much out of this race. Alabama State, like I said, they still have some tough games on their schedule, but they cannot really afford to lose again. A loss doesn't kill them, but for confidence sake, this game is very huge. So it's at home. It's homecoming at Alabama State. So I'm gonna go Hornets. I think Pine Bluff they're just reeling right now. I think Alabama State will find a way to win. Again, not a pretty game. I don't think this is gonna be one of those offensive explosion type of games, but I think you're gonna see somebody find a way to win. I don't think it's gonna be very high scoring. I'm gonna say 2017 for Alabama State, and that leads us into our next game between Florida A&M. They host who I call the honorary SWAC member, South Carolina State. This is their third game against a SWAC team. That's game 5 o'clock kickoff on Facebook Live, on the Florida A&M Facebook Live. So make sure to check that out. South Carolina State picked up their first W against Bethune Cookman, and they're playing some good football at this. In that game, they played some really good football. They're 1-3 right now, so they don't really have the success, but they're a dangerous team. You know, offensively, Corey Fields is a guy who is a really solid dual threat guy at quarterback. I think he's a guy who's going to give Florida A&M some problems, but I also think Florida A&M is going to have some problems with this South Carolina State defense. Now, they've given up some points, but I think the South Carolina State defense will be up to the task. I really like FAMU in this game. I think they're gonna build on that performance that they had against Alabama State. I don't think it's gonna be that dominant, but South Carolina State's a team that's scoring 30 points a game, but they're allowing 42. They have 163 yards rushing per game, 4.6 yards per carry. The opponent's 172 yards per game, 5.2 yards per carry. 260 passing for the Bulldogs, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. 292 for the opponents, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. 423 yards of total offense for the Bulldogs, 6.1 yards per play. 6.7 yards per play for the opponents, 464 yards per game. 31% third down for South Carolina State, 77% fourth downs, 52% for the opponents on third down, so they're having trouble getting off the field, 75% fourth downs. They only have 3 sacks right now, and the opponents have 6. The leading rusher, Kinsler Flowers, 40 carries, 202 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's averaging 5.1 yards per carry. Corey Fields, 131 yards. He's averaging 5 yards per carry. So that's a two-headed monster in the running game. Fields, 74 of 129 passing, 57% completion, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Will Vereen leads the team right now with 20 catches for 343, 17.1 yard per catch, 2 touchdowns. Shaquan Davis, 10 catches, 257, 25 yards per catch, and 1 touchdown. So again, deep threats. B.J. Davis leads the team with 25 tackles. Gilchrist, 25. Barr and Evans with 17. Tackle for loss. Tucker, 3.5. Sacks, Barber, and Meadows each had 1. Jacoby Durant, that's a name to look out for at cornerback. He has 2 interceptions on the season, so look out for him. He's a big time guy. He's an NFL prospect, and a big time baller at that cornerback spot. FAMU is averaging 21.2 yards per game, and they're allowing 13. Defensively, they are allowing 111 yards per game on the ground, 3.3 yards per carry. They're rushing for 132 yards per game, 4.3 yards per carry. 195 yards for the Rattlers through the air per game, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. 173 yards per game for the opponents, 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. 327 per game for the Rattlers, 4.7 yards per play. 284 for the opponents, 4.5 yards per play. FAMU is 32% completion on third down and 37 on fourth down. They have 11 sacks. Like I said, their defense is one of the best defenses in the league. They're going to make some plays. They're going to hurt you, and they're going to really, really get after you. They're only allowing 29% third down completion and 14% on fourth downs, and the opponents have 7 sacks. This team is going to go as the running game goes and the quarterback, Bishop Bonnet, 41 carries, 195 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Terrell Jennings, 23 carries, 166 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's averaging 7.2 yards per carry, so that's a two-headed monster in the run game. Rashawn McKay is the guy at quarterback. He's having some growing pains, but as he goes, this team will go. He doesn't have to do anything crazy. He just has to manage the game. 56% completion rate, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions on the season, 614 yards. Xavier Smith is the leading receiver, 32 catches, 290, 9 yards per catch, 1 touchdown. David Manigo, 10 catches, 129 yards. Jamari Sherrod, 17 catches, 110 yards. Defensively is where they make their money. Marquise Bell, 23 carries. Fagan, 23 tackles for Bell. Fagan, 20 tackles. Collier, 16. Land, 14. Mayweather, 14. Land leads the team with 6.5 tackles for loss. Williams, 5 tackles for loss. Land 5 sacks. And Williams, 3 sacks. Interceptions go to Bowler, Cox, and Allen. So this should be an exciting game. I think this is a game that either team can win, but I think FAMU is playing a little bit better, and they're at home. So I'm going to go with the Rattlers in this game. I'm going to say 27-21. I think this could be a good victory for them out of conference, get them back into conference, continue to play well at home, and move into SWAC play as a whole. So our next game is Grambling going to Alcorn. Grambling pulled off the upset of the season against Alabama A&M right now at this point. I think Grambling is a team who's going to be very dangerous. Obviously, you cannot count Grambling out. They're going to play hard. They for whatever reason, they had Alabama A&M's number, and that was the case on Saturday. I think nothing different came from that. They played well against Alcorn, so this should be a good matchup. This is a homecoming at Alcorn, so again, another festive atmosphere. But I think Alcorn should win this game. I think they haven't played since that Pine Bluff victory, but I think this team may have found what they need. The running game is obviously the key for them. They have to run the ball. They have to get Nico Duffy going. He's a guy who's a big playback, so you have to get him going. He's right now he has 282 yards on the season. Felix Harper obviously is the quarterback, the trigger man. 57% completion rate. That needs to improve a bit. 991 yards and 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. CJ Bowler is a guy who came on big in the last couple games. He's had 100+ yards receiving in his last 2 games. He has 10 catches for 279 yards and 1 touchdown, averaging 27 yards per catch. So you definitely have to keep up with him downfield. LaCharles Pringle is the leading receiver, 18 catches, 283, 2 touchdowns. He's averaging 15 yards per catch. And Juan Anthony, 10 catches, 152 yards. He's averaging 15 yards per catch. If that passing game gets going, then obviously that's going to open up things for the running game. The offensive line has to protect better. They really struggled in the last few games protecting Felix Harper. He's been getting hit a little bit, and that's kind of rattled him at times. But when he's on, he's on. And defensively, Keyron Kinsler is the guy, man. He's a hard hitter at safety, and he'll knock your block off. He has 31 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and an interception. The leading man on tackle for loss is Claudine Cherelis with 5.5. Kobe Wren with three tackles for loss. They don't have very many sacks on the season. They only have 3 right now. They're allowing 15, so they aren't really making a lot of sacks, but they have 4 interceptions. They have 4 interceptions on the season, so they are, they're starting to find their form. I think that layoff actually hurt them a lot more than a lot of people realize, but they're getting there. So you really expect Alcorn to play it better in this game. Grambling, they started Noah Bowden at quarterback, the freshman, and he handled himself well. This was the best offensive game that Grambling played all year. A lot of that was due to the Alabama A&M turnovers, putting them in short fields, but I think Grambling didn't hurt themselves. They had one crucial turnover, but they got the ball right back. So I thought Grambling played, like I said, I thought they played their best game overall in the Alabama A&M game. Can they build on that? It's going to be the key. Statistically, still not anything really to write home about for Grambling right now, but they have some ability. The Queez Burton is starting to find the form as a runner. 141 yards rushing, 4.3 yards per carry. Like I said, Noah Bowden, I think, is going to be the guy from here on out. He has He's only completing 42% of his passes, but he only has limited action. So I expect that to get better. He just barely missed on a lot of throws in that Alabama A&M game. So I um I expect for him to really step up and continue to grow. The leading receiver is Greg White. He has 8 catches for 130 yards. Kobe Ross went off against Alabama A&M. He has 10 catches for 119 yards and a touchdown. He was a big play guy for them. The passing game is still improving. Like I said, statistically, it looks bad because in first 2 games, they could not throw the ball at all. Um, Blake Thomas is the leading tackler with 27. Ray Estes, 18. Wesley Green, 16. Joshua Quiet and Joshua Reed, each with 16. Tackles for loss, Powell with 5. And Sackman, Lewis and Thomas and Anderson each have 6 sacks on the season. And they have 5 guys with 1 interception each. So this game should be interesting. I think Gramblin's going to come in. I think Grambling is going to, give it everything. I think they're going to go hard and play hard. But I like Alcorn in this game. I think Alcorn is starting to find their form, and that's not good if you're the SWAC West. You really don't want Alcorn to start to figure out who they are. So that's going to be a problem. And I think Alcorn wins this game. I'm going to say 31-17. I think Grambling will be game, but I just don't think they really are going to be able to get it done. Now, our last game, obviously, is the game that everybody's talking about. So there's a lot of breakdowns out there that are really good. If you really want a really in-depth breakdown, kind of round table, why don't you check out Off Script, Blue Bloods, and CFL. They did a round table yesterday. They broke this game down up, left, right, and sideways. So I'm not even going to try to touch that. This game is big, man, so obviously this game is for control of the SWAC East. You have so many different things going on. You have Maynor talking trash. You have Dion, who's a big personality. You have the Jackson State defense, which is obviously lights out. The dark side defense, like they say, headache gang. That group is out there knocking blocks off. Alabama A&M offense is high flying and explosive. Akil Glass, even though he had a horrible game against Grambling, he still is the best quarterback in the league to me. You have Shador Sanders, who's an up and coming top quarterback in the league, and his receiving core. Alabama A&M defense is here. I don't know what to really expect from them. They're gonna have to step up. If Alabama A&M wins this game, their defense is gonna have to make some plays. They're gonna have to play better, and they're gonna have to stop allowing so many points. Now, those they gave up those points against Grambling, but they were put in a lot of bad field position situations. So that's not 100% on them to give up that many points, but they've been giving up that many points all year long. So that has to improve. They're allowing 4.8 yards per carry, 158 yards per game rushing, 225 through the air, 7 touchdowns. They do have 5 interceptions, so they've been picking the ball off at times. Like I said, the numbers, when you look at them, other than that 35 per game, those numbers aren't bad as a defense, but they are giving up plays at the wrong time, and they are allowing 31% on third down, so they're doing a decent job there. The offense, like I said, it speaks for itself. You know that the passing game is there, 380 per game, passing 14 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Glass cannot turn the ball over in this game. That just cannot happen. Gary Quarles has to be a guy to make some plays in this game. He has 394 rushing on the season, 5.4 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns. They need another guy to run the ball as well, but they only ran the ball 18 times against Grambling, so that has to get better. You cannot run the ball 18 times in this game, and you cannot throw the ball 62 times. With the guys that they have, Ibrahim, Hilaire, D. Anderson, who has 7 touchdowns on the season, Zay Moore, and Juice Jenkins. Obviously, those guys, Garrett Quarles, Kendrick Johnson as well, they have a bevy of people to catch the football. So if Glass has time to throw, he's going to get the ball to his guys. And that matchup against the Jackson State secondary is obviously the matchup that everybody is looking at. but the running game can open up a lot more for them. And so if they can give those guys something to think about on defense for Jackson State, then that will help them a lot passing the ball. Garrett Quarles is a small guy. He can get lost behind that line. And next thing you know, he's down the field. He catches the ball well at the backfield too. So he needs to get going, and they need to run the ball more than 18 times 18 times in this game. Jackson State also is struggling to run the football. They're averaging 51 yards per game rushing. That can, this game here may be what ails them for their running game. We said that for Delta State, they still didn't run the ball well. The offensive line has to protect. They are allowing 16 sacks on the season, so they have 12 sacks, but they allowing 16. So that's a lot of hits on your quarterback in 4 games. That's like 4 sacks a game. So you don't want your quarterback to get hit that much. I don't know if Alabama A&M is going to generate that kind of pressure, but if this offensive line doesn't improve, then that will be a problem for them. Defensively, they don't really allow anything really. 104 yards on the ground, 2.9 yards per rush, 141 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. They don't have an interception yet, but I'm sure they'll get one at some point. 246 total offense, 3.6 yards per play allowed, and they only allowing 26% completion on third down. So that defense speaks for itself. Offensively is where the issue is 32% completion rate on third down. So the Jackson State defense against the Jackson State defense offense against the Alabama A&M defense, to me, is the matchup that's worth watching the most. Whoever comes out on top in that matchup, I think, will win this game, because I think the A&M offense against Jackson defense is gonna not so much cancel each other out, but that's the strength of each team. So, this is gonna be an interesting affair. I expect, for this to be a good game. I'm going Jackson State because I just think that defense is more capable of getting stops than Alabama A&M defense is. Now, Glass is going to test them. We're going to really find out, what they're made of in this game. I think, A&M defense just cannot stop anybody right now, and I just think that's going to be their detriment. I think the score is going to be like 35 to 28. I think A&M is going to give Jackson State a hell of a game with offense. They're going to work them boys out, but I think that A&M defense is just going to be the problem for this game. So, like I said, there's a lot of people breaking down this game really in depth. So if you want to check those out, man, go ahead and check everybody out who does this, because they've been doing a great coverage on this game. So I'm really excited to see this game. Like I said, week 6 is here. So like I said before, hit those socials, facebook.com/SWACtalk, instagram.com/SWACtalk. Like the videos, share them, comment. Hit me up in the comment. Let me know who you think going to win this week. If you haven't done so already, man, go ahead and subscribe. Do that, please. Big shout out to my subscribers already. I appreciate it, y'all. I'm trying to grow the show, so if you can help out with donations, hit the Cash App, $/SWACtalk. And I'll be back tomorrow with my boy DJ for another live edition of SWAC Smoke, 6 o'clock. And then Sunday, week 6 recap. So with that being said, I'm C. Wells. I'm signing out, man. Y'all enjoy the rest of the week and all the antics that come from Connell Maynor. And hopefully the game is a good one. So I'll holler at y'all on the rebound.